me tell you about my Uncle Dave. Dave did everything right. Every single thing the system told him to do. He got a steady job at 22. He opened a savings account. He put 10% of every paycheck away, like clockwork, for 35 years. He drove a used car. He clipped coupons. He never took a vacation that cost more than $800. He told his kids, money doesn't grow on trees. He lived by that. And when Dave retired at 62, after 40 years of discipline, sacrifice, and doing everything right, he had $214,000 in savings. Which sounds like a lot, until you realize that $214,000 in today's economy will last him about 8 years. Dave is 62. The average American man lives to 76. Do the math. Dave did everything he was told, and the system broke him anyway. And here's what nobody is going to tell you at your bank, in your finance class, or at your parents' dinner table. The way your parents saved money is making you poor. Not because they were stupid, not because they didn't try, but because the rules of money changed and nobody sent them the update. Today, I'm going to show you the new rules. And if you're under 45, this might be the most important financial video you ever watch.
Let's start with the thing you were taught to worship. The savings account. From the time you were a kid, you were told, save your money, put it in the bank, let it grow. Your parents believed this, their parents believed it, and on the surface, it sounds completely reasonable. Here's the problem. In 1980, a standard savings account paid somewhere between 10% and 15% interest per year. Let that sink in. 15% interest just for parking your cash in a bank. If your parents put $10,000 in a savings account in 1981 and left it there without adding another dime, by 1991, they'd have over $40,000. The bank was literally making them rich just for showing up. So their advice made perfect sense for 1981. Now, fast forward. Today, the national average interest rate on a savings account is 0.46%. Less than 0.5%. That means if you put $10,000 in a savings account today and leave it for a full year, you'll earn $46. $46! Meanwhile, inflation, the rate at which everything around you gets more expensive, is running between 3 and 5% per year in normal times, and it spiked to over 9% in 2022. So your money is sitting in the bank earning 0.46%, while the cost of groceries, rent, gas, healthcare, and everything else is rising at 3 to 9 times that rate. You're not saving money, you're losing it in slow motion. This is what economists call negative real returns. Your number goes up slightly, but your purchasing power, what that money can actually buy, goes down every single year. Your parents weren't losing money in the bank because in their day, savings accounts kept pace with or beat inflation. You are losing money in the bank because that stopped being true about 30 years ago. And the banks know this, and they're not going to tell you. Now, I want to be clear about something before we go further. I'm not saying don't have a savings account. You need one. You need an emergency fund, 3 to 6 months of expenses in a liquid, accessible account. That's not negotiable. But beyond that emergency cushion, parking your money in a traditional savings account is one of the most financially damaging things you can do in 2024. And there are much, much smarter places for it to go.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting, because this isn't just about math. It's about psychology. There's a concept in behavioral economics called loss aversion. Studies, including Nobel Prize-winning research by Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky, have shown that psychologically, losing $100 feels about twice as bad as gaining $100 feels good. We are hardwired to fear loss more than we desire gain. And your parents? They lived through things that hammered this instinct into overdrive. Many of them, or their parents, lived through the Great Depression, or the recession of the early 1980s, or the dot-com crash, or 2008. They watched people lose everything, and the lesson their nervous systems recorded was, keep your money where you can see it. Keep it safe. Don't risk it.
That's not stupidity. That's trauma. And it's understandable. But here's what that trauma missed.
The people who rebuilt wealth after every one of those crashes, the people who came out the other side richer, weren't the ones who kept their money in savings accounts. They were the ones who stayed invested, who bought more when prices dropped, who understood that volatility is not the same as loss. After the 2008 financial crisis, one of the worst crashes in American history, the S&P 500 hit its bottom in March 2009. If you had invested $10,000 right at that bottom, at the scariest moment when everyone was panicking, by 2019, just 10 years later, you'd have over $55,000. The people who pulled their money out in fear and put it in savings accounts during the crisis, they had maybe $12,000 by 2019, if they were lucky. Same decade, same America, completely different financial outcomes based entirely on behavior, not intelligence. Your parents' savings instinct was a survival mechanism. It worked for their era. But you're not fighting their war.
And the biggest tragedy I see over and over again is younger people inheriting their parents' fear without inheriting the context that created it. You're bringing World War II era survival tactics to a completely different battlefield.
Okay, I've been pretty brutal for the last 13 minutes. Now let me give you the actual playbook. The new rules, what people who are actually building wealth in 2024 are doing differently. And I want you to notice something as I walk through these. None of this is complicated. None of this requires a finance degree. None of this is magic. It's just different thinking. New rule number 1. Your emergency fund is not your wealth building tool. Keep 3 to 6 months of living expenses in a high-yield savings account, not a traditional savings account. High-yield savings accounts available at online banks like Marcus by Goldman Sachs, Ally, or SoFi are currently paying between 4% and 5% interest. That's 10x the national average. This is still not wealth building, but it keeps your emergency cushion from actively shrinking. Everything beyond that emergency fund needs to be working harder. New rule number 2. Invest first, save second. Here's the mindset shift that changes everything. Your parents thought about saving as the destination. You save money, and that's the goal. The new rule is saving is just the on-ramp. The highway is investing. The moment you have your emergency fund handled, every dollar you're saving beyond that should be going into investment vehicles. The most powerful one available to most Americans, the 401k. If your employer offers a 401k match and you are not maxing out that match, you are leaving free money on the table. Period. Full stop. A 100% match on 3% of your salary is an instant 100% return on your investment. No stock market on earth offers that guaranteed. Beyond the match, max out your 401k if you can. The limit in 2024 is $23,000 per year. You contribute after-tax dollars, and every dollar of growth comes out in retirement completely tax-free. The compound math on a Roth IRA over 30 years is almost hard to believe. If a 25-year-old puts just $6,000 a year into a Roth IRA, earning an average 8% annual return, by age 65, they'll have over $1.6 million, and they won't owe a single dollar of tax on it. That is the kind of outcome your parents' savings account was supposed to deliver, and it never could. New rule number 3. The stock market is not a casino. It's the most powerful wealth machine ever built. I know. Every time the market drops, someone on TV calls it gambling. Your uncle posts on Facebook that it's all rigged. Here's the truth. The S&P 500 has returned an average of roughly 10% per year since its inception in 1957. It has crashed multiple times. It has dropped 30%, 40%, even 50% in bad years. And then it recovered. Every single time. If you zoom out to any 20-year period in U.S. stock market history, there has never been a single one where a diversified investor lost money. Not one! The market rewards patience. It punishes panic. And the simplest way to invest in the market? Index funds.
Not individual stocks, not crypto, not picking hot tips from Reddit. A simple, low-cost index fund, like one that tracks the S&P 500, gives you automatic diversification across 500 of the world's best companies. The legendary investor Warren Buffett has literally said on record that when he dies, he wants 90% of his wife's inheritance put into a low-cost S&P 500 index fund. If that's good enough for the Buffett family fortune, it's good enough for the rest of us. New rule number 4. Your home is not your retirement plan. This one is going to make some people angry. Your parents told you, buy a house. It's always a good investment. Real estate always goes up. And there's some truth buried in there. But here's what the full picture looks like. According to Robert Shiller, another Nobel Prize-winning economist, when you account for maintenance costs, property taxes, insurance, and inflation, the average American home has appreciated in real value by about 0.6% per year over the past century. 0.6%! That is barely above zero.
Now, home ownership still makes sense for many people, for stability, for community, for building equity rather than paying rent forever. But treating your primary residence as your retirement strategy? That's a trap. You cannot eat your equity. You can't pay medical bills with the appreciation on your house without refinancing or selling. The people who retired rich off real estate, they owned multiple properties that generated income, not the house they lived in. Your home is where you live. Your investments are where you build wealth. Don't confuse the two. New rule number 5. Inflation is not your enemy. Ignoring it is. You've probably heard adults complain about inflation your whole life. Prices going up, dollar not going as far. And yes, inflation is real and it's painful, but here's the perspective shift. Inflation is manageable, even advantageous, if your assets are growing faster than it. If inflation is at 3% and your investment portfolio is growing at 8%, you're winning by 5% per year. If inflation is at 3% and your savings account is at 0.46%, you're losing by 2.5% per year. Inflation isn't the problem. Being in the wrong vehicle when inflation hits is the problem. Your parents could outrun inflation with savings accounts because interest rates were high enough to match it. You have to outrun inflation with investment returns because interest rates no longer do it for you. I want to step back from the numbers for a second and talk about what this actually means, because this isn't really about finance. It's about your life. Let me tell you about Marcus. Marcus is 31. He grew up in Atlanta. His parents worked hard. His dad at a factory, his mom at a daycare. They weren't wealthy, but they were stable. They taught Marcus everything they knew. Be responsible. Save your money. Don't waste. Buy a car you can afford. Build up your savings account. Marcus followed the plan. At 28, he had $18,000 in a savings account. He was proud of himself. But he started noticing something. His coworker Priya, same age, similar salary, seemed to be getting ahead faster. New car, down payment on a condo, talking about retiring early. Marcus finally asked her what she was doing differently. Priya showed him her investment portfolio. She'd been putting $400 a month into index funds since she was 24. At 28, she had over $30,000, and it was still growing at 9% a year. Marcus had $18,000, earning 0.4%, losing ground to inflation. Same 4 years, same income range, completely different financial trajectories. Marcus came away from that conversation feeling cheated, not by Priya, not even by his parents. He felt cheated by a system that never updated its advice. And that feeling, I hear it from people all the time. I did everything right. Why isn't it working? Because everything right was defined 40 years ago in a completely different economic environment. And the update never reached your family's dinner table. The system changed, the banks changed, the interest rates changed, inflation changed, the entire landscape of building wealth in America changed. But the advice passed down through families didn't. And that gap between old advice and new reality is quietly destroying the financial futures of millions of Americans who are doing exactly what they were told. Let me give you the single most important shift in this entire video. Stop thinking like a saver. Start thinking like an investor. What's the difference? A saver thinks, how do I protect what I have? An investor thinks, how do I make what I have work for me? A saver sees risk as the enemy. An investor sees risk as a tool, something to be managed, understood, and used strategically. A saver hoards cash. An investor deploys capital. And here's the key insight. You don't need a lot of money to start investing. This is the other lie people believe. I'll start investing when I have more money. The most valuable asset in investing is not money. It's time. Thanks to compound interest, what Einstein allegedly called the eighth wonder of the world, money that's invested early grows exponentially. Here's a concrete example. Person A starts investing $200 a month at age 25 and stops at age 35. They invest for 10 years and then never touch it again. Person B starts investing $200 a month at age 35 and invests all the way to age 65. They invest for 30 years. Who has more money at 65? Person A, even though they invested for a fraction of the time, because the money person A put in at 25 had 40 years to compound. Time is the variable that makes all the difference. Every year you wait costs you not just 1 year of returns. It costs you the exponential compounding of every year after that. There is no, I'll start when I'm more stable. The best time to start was 10 years ago. The second best time is right now. Today. Not next month. Not when you pay off that credit card. Not when you get a raise. Now.
All right, let's get tactical. Here is exactly what I want you to do in the next 7 days. Not eventually, not someday, this week. Step 1. Audit your money. Open every account you have, savings, checking, whatever. Write down the interest rate you're earning. If it's under 4%, your money is working below its potential. Step 2. Open a high-yield savings account if you don't have one. Ally, Marcus, SoFi, Discover, all are FDIC insured and paying 4-5% right now. Move your emergency fund there. It takes 10 minutes to set up online. Step 3. If your employer offers a 401k match, increase your contribution to at least capture the full match. Log into your HR portal today. If you're not sure how much to put in, start with whatever percentage gets you the full employer match. That's free money. Collect it. Step 4. Open a Roth IRA. Fidelity, Vanguard, and Schwab all make this easy. Start with whatever you can, even $50 a month. Then automate it so you never have to think about it. Step 5. Choose one simple investment and start. Don't overcomplicate this. A total market index fund or S&P 500 index fund with a low expense ratio is all you need to start. VTI, VOO, FXAIX, these are not exotic instruments. They're boring, proven, and powerful. Step 6. Set it and forget it, then gradually increase. The magic of automated investing is that you stop feeling the money leaving. Every time you get a raise, bump your investment contribution by 1%. Do that every year, and in a decade, you'll be investing 10-15% of your income without ever feeling the pinch. Step 7. Educate yourself, but don't get paralyzed.
Listen to podcasts, watch more videos, but don't let the pursuit of perfect knowledge stop you from taking action with good knowledge. Done is better than perfect when it comes to starting your investment journey.
I want to end with this. Somewhere in your family, there's a version of Uncle Dave, someone who worked hard, played by the rules, did everything right, and still ended up worried about money in the final chapters of their life. It's not their fault. They were playing by rules that were written for a different era, in a different economy, with different tools available. But you're watching this video, which means you have the information they didn't. You know that savings accounts are no longer wealth builders. You know that safe investments can actually be the most dangerous thing for your long-term financial health. You know that the stock market, for all its noise and drama, rewards patient, consistent investors with returns that no savings account has touched in 30 years. You know that time is your most powerful asset, more powerful than income, more powerful than skill, more powerful than a lucky stock pick. And most importantly,
you know that you don't have to repeat the pattern. Your parents' financial advice came from love. It came from experience. It came from the best information they had. But love doesn't make information accurate. And experience from a different economic era doesn't automatically translate to wisdom in this one.
Honor what they taught you about discipline, about sacrifice, about delayed gratification. Those values are timeless. But the vehicles you use to express those values, those need to be updated. Don't save money like your parents did. Save it smarter. Invest it bolder. Think longer. Because 30 years from now, there will be a younger version of you watching a video just like this one. And you want to be the person who figured it out early enough to do something about it, not the person who learned too late. The choice is yours. And the best moment to make it is right now. If this video changed how you think about money, hit like, drop a comment below telling me the one thing you're going to do this week, and subscribe, because we drop financial truth bombs like this every week. I'll see you in the next one.